my father was not absolutely, he was very bashful about talking about sex. I don't know why. My mother was one that she was not very efficient or complete in talking about sex. My general or sophisticated knowledge of sex actually came from either the streets or school. You know, it's just one of those things. I have some tastes, you know. Obviously, I was at an age of 12 and 13 that I knew that there was a difference between boys and girls. I mean, any kid at that age would, most likely. My dad used to bring home men's magazines from work, nudist magazines and things like that. And my mother would be sitting in the living room reading them while my father's watching TV. And they'd be sitting there and I'd walk, you do the same thing that I do, you know. I think about this, and now...
Usually be the other way around.
Right, and my dad's watching TV, my mother's looking at the nudist magazines, and one night I remember coming in, I had picked up athlete's foot or something like that. I had a real bad itching on my foot. I wanted her to look at it because it was really getting red and inflamed, and I didn't know what to do about it. And I'm trying to get her to help me with my foot because, I'm scratching it raw and talking to her about that. And she was trying to get me to you know, look at the magazine and here, you want to look at it, you know, and she thought it was funnier than hell. Yeah, but there was no real extensive sex education with my mother. She bought a book once. I take that back. There was an attempt at an education, and what it was, the book explained a basic facts of life in the reproductive system. This is when I was about 11 or 12 years old. The book was fine if I would have had access to the book, but whatever she thought the book was, she bought it. She bought it from Sibley, Lindsay, and Kerr, which is a very well-known department store, Becky. It's a very large, very well-known department store, and she bought it from them, from their book department. She bought it for my instruction, I guess, but I rarely saw it because she always kept it hid someplace. You figure that one out. Yeah, she was hiding it from me so I wouldn't look at it, you know. And I knew she'd bought it for me because I had heard her talking about it. And when I finally did get a hold of it, it was very well written, you know. It was very instructional, and I did pick up quite a few things from that, you know. But I didn't have it all that long. When I didn't have it, it wasn't like sitting in my room or sitting on a table was readily available to me. When I didn't have it, it was hidden someplace, put away someplace. Just.
Did you ever find it? I mean, did you ever find out where she hid it? Or?
No, I thought she used to hide it in her closet, and I'd always go back and check her closet. She's really good. She could hide. You could take all the furniture out of this room, and you could give her an elephant, and she'd find someplace to hide it. She's just really good at that. You know, she's real sneaky. And I used to, you know, look around for it and couldn't find it. But she, you know, it occurs to me now, here I am 28 years old, and I think back, and I think, my God, what, you know, if this was supposed to be for me, which is what it was, why did she always used to hide it? You know, things like that don't add up. I don't understand it. She apparently, maybe she thought that it was a pornographic or a no-no or something like that, you know. Of what I can remember from the book, there was nothing in it except for, you know, some drawings of the reproductive system and how babies are made and so on and so forth. And,
did you ever see her naked or, you know, getting dressed or undressed, or was she super modest, or how that?
Very private. Very, very. When she went into a room to change or whatever, as far as I can remember, as a kid, I was, you know, when the door is closed, you don't go in. You know, that's the way it always was. As a matter of fact,
do you remember ever accidentally walking in on her?
No.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm thinking about what you said, and as a matter of fact, to this very day, she does something she's done for years and years. When she goes into the bathroom and goes in to pee or whatever, she always runs the water so you don't hear her almost walked into her in the bathroom because I didn't realize she was in there. The door wasn't closed all the way. But, I mean, I just put my hand on the handle, and all that happened was the door slammed. I mean, I like reach like this, and push my arm back, you know, and the door slammed. She says, "I'm in here."
When she went to bed at night?
Oh God. No, she.
What do you remember now of the funeral? First, your own feelings and behavior.
I can remember almost. I can remember almost everything about the funeral. I can tell you everything about it.
Let's back up to
when we found out. Yeah, that's the one thing I still can't. I've been told that when the police came and went into the house and told my mother. I remember the police going upstairs to tell the people to keep quiet. I remember my mother crying. I remember myself crying in bed later on that night. I remember going into the house when she called me. I remember coming out to the front porch in tears and telling my friends, you know, that I couldn't play anymore. So I had two other friends we were playing with on the front porch, playing cards or something. But I don't remember jumping up and down and screaming. You know, no, I honestly don't. I don't know.
Okay, let's move on to the funeral. What do you remember of that?
I remember I was really scared. You know, I'd seen my dad alive, and the whole thing was hard to believe to start off with, and here I was going to walk into a funeral parlor, which is traumatic in itself, and see the man that I love very much, and all of a sudden he's gone there in an open casket, you know, and I didn't know exactly what it was going to look like, and, you know, what was going to happen, how I was going to handle it and everything, but my Uncle Joe, who was the closest to my dad, he was a brother-in-law, but he was more like a brother. He was so great to me. I mean, he stood by me, and he was with my mother and myself, and all my mother's other brothers, and they really, if it wasn't for them, I probably would have gone right off the deep end at the funeral, but I did very little actual crying and carrying on at the funeral. I tried to take it the best I could. I tried to understand. A lot of people explained to me, you know, God wanted him more than anybody else, and that's why God took him. And, you know, he's resting comfortably now. You know, he's sleeping and so on and so forth, you know, and just made death not look so black and horrible. And face up that he really didn't look all that bad. I remember the hardest thing about the funeral, I was pretty composed through the whole funeral. I finally broke down in really bad tears the very last day just before they closed the casket. Matter of fact, I can remember kissing him goodbye, you know, which we do. It's an Italian. You always kiss your loved one goodbye before they close the casket. And I can remember doing that. I remember he was very cold.
It's Italian, it's not Catholic. It's Italian.
No, it's Italian.
And the sensation was what?
Cold? He was very, I was just so emotionally upset over the whole thing. I'm starting to get teared up now. I can just remember that he was very cold, you know, and I really, even though everybody said that I should understand it, I really still had all these doubts in my mind, why he was gone, and it really didn't hit me that he was actually gone forever and ever and ever until that time, you know, until just before they were getting ready to close the casket. And matter of fact, after my dad was right after the funeral to probably about 2 years afterwards. Probably I'd say about a year afterwards, my mom and I would go to the cemetery every day, practically every single day, day in and day out.
What did you do?
Go there, and we'd bring flowers. We'd go there just to say a prayer. As a matter of fact, I did that before I came into California. It was a blinding snowstorm. and he has a flat marker. I have no idea how I ever found his marker. The cemetery he's buried in is huge. I mean, it's just really big. And I couldn't go any further with my car on Lake Avenue, so I pulled over to a side street and walked probably about a quarter of a mile to the cemetery, hopped over the wall, and I'm walking through just a white blanket of snow, and I saw a tree that looked vaguely familiar, with no leaves on it, and all I did was turn right and walk until I thought I had walked far enough and started brushing off a couple of stones, and sure enough, there was my dad's.
Sounds like it obviously must have made a big impression on you. I mean, when you were young, the going to the cemetery and whatever.
Oh yeah,
and all that. And
there were.
of course, if you went that often too, I guess you probably got pretty familiar with where it was.
When I think a lot of it had to do with the tree. I don't think I could have found it without that tree. For some reason, that tree looked familiar and just stuck in my mind.
Any distinctive monuments or tombstones or?
They're all flat.
It's one of those areas where everything is.
It's a new area, and they were trying to get away from the old mammoth statues and things like that.
I see.
Flat stones.
Do you remember what you wore at the funeral?
I remember that I'd always had a brush cut my entire life, up until the funeral. My hair was getting long. It was time for another haircut. My Uncle Joe took me to the barber, and it was the first time I ever had actually a normal haircut with a part. I parted my hair, I had a trim, and that was it. I remember I wore suits.
What shoes?
I don't remember what kind of shoes. But I did wear suits. It was Vito Chiminos, What kind of shoes I wore?
Or what shoes they were, whose shoes they were? Is that?
I don't know.
Okay, let me tell you why I asked. My recollection is that in one of the interviews with your mother, she said that you came back from Maine without any shoes, and that you and your father at that time had the same size feet, and so that for the funeral you wore your father's shoes that he had been wearing, I guess, on the trip to Maine, as a matter of fact.
Wow. I came back from Maine without any shoes? She said, I don't remember that. I don't remember that happening.
As I say, and then said that so she had you. I know she said that you wore his shoes and that you were the same size, and so she had you wear his shoes for the funeral because he didn't need them anymore. But on the other hand, I bring it up because I wonder how that would feel to a young, fairly young boy, having just having been with his father, and then wearing, some of his father's clothes to his father's funeral, and also whether, I don't know, whether there was any hidden message there at all about, you were now expected to fill your father's shoes or anything like that.
I was.
You were, huh?
To a good extent,
How so?
After my father died, there was a lot of turmoil within the family system. My mother's family, my father's family, and so on and so forth. There were people that were very loyal and remained very close to help us out, and then there were other people that just... But a lot of things were... A lot of responsibility was laid on me that now when I think back shouldn't have been responsibility of things to do around the house that were things my dad used to do, and Mom also used to say, well, your father's gone now, it's up to you to take his place, and you're a man now, and all this other stuff, And I remember many times I would have much preferred going out to play, you know, but I had to stay home and I had things to do.
Did you also kind of act as her escort then for a while? I mean, I don't know, I'm sure where
She didn't go anyplace.
She didn't?
Oh my God, no. In fact, she hardly goes
She would
anywhere
never go
now.
to, like to a movie? Or, really? What about church?
Yeah, she and I would go to church.
And were you expected then to like take her arm? Like, you know, kind of.
Not necessarily. You know, I'd help when we'd go up steps and things like that. You know, she'd take my arm, so she didn't. She had just a couple years before that, or 2 years before that, something like that, broken her leg badly in a fall. And consequently, they found she had Paget's disease. One leg is shorter than the other. It still is. And this, so, you know, there were times when she had trouble getting up and down things, you know, and I helped her, and times when I just did it just to be nice, you know, things like that. But she really never went any place except to the store to get food and to church. Matter of fact, I can even remember going through a very long period of time. I can't tell you how long, because I'm not sure.